You are 18 years old. You don't know that yet. Not really. You know the number 18, but you don't know what it means to carry it into a room where men are handing you papers to sign and uniforms to fold and a serial number that will, from this moment forward, mean more than your name. The recruiter smelled like cigarette smoke and Old Spice. The office had a water stain on the ceiling shaped like the state of Ohio. You signed on a Tuesday in November 1942. It was 38 degrees outside. You remember that because you walked in from the cold and your fingers were so numb you almost couldn't hold the pen. That is your first lesson in this institution. Your body is an inconvenience to the paperwork. Basic training is 8 weeks, and by week 3 you have stopped flinching at the sound of a sergeant's voice. This is not courage. This is conditioning. There is a difference. Courage is a choice. Conditioning is what happens when the choice is removed often enough that your nervous system stops waiting to make it. You learn to fold a blanket to within a quarter inch of regulation. You learn that the distance between your rifle and your shoulder has a correct answer. You learn that hunger, cold, and exhaustion are not emergencies. They are the baseline. Everything above baseline is considered privilege. They assign you to aerial gunnery school in Tyndall, Florida. You are there because your hand-eye coordination scores placed you in the 94th percentile. Nobody tells you this. Nobody tells you anything about why. You are simply handed new orders and a bus ticket and told when to be on the bus. The bus smells like diesel and wet wool. You are 22 men in various states of confusion. Nobody speaks for the first hour. This is something you will come to understand about military life. Silence is often the most honest form of communication. At Tyndall, you learn the turret. The Sperry Ball turret on AB-17 Flying Fortress is 44 inches in diameter. You are 5 feet 7 inches tall and you weigh 148 pounds, and this is considered ideal. Larger men go elsewhere. You fit. This is not a compliment. This is geometry. You spend 6 weeks in the turret, first on the ground, then in simulated flight, then in actual flight against target drones. The turret is a metal sphere suspended beneath the belly of the aircraft. You curl yourself inside it like a question mark. Your knees are at your chin. Your back is against the guns. When you rotate to track a target, the world outside the plexiglass spins. Sky becomes earth becomes sky, and the only fixed point is the reticle on the sight. They tell you the average life expectancy of a ball turret gunner over occupied Europe is 11 missions. A full tour is 25. They say it like they're reading a weather report. You arrive in England in March 1943. The base is in Molesworth, Cambridgeshire. It rains every day for the first 2 weeks. The mud is specific, English mud, the color of old pennies, clinging. Your barracks are a Nissen hut, corrugated steel, a single iron stove that consumes coal at a rate that almost, but never quite, compensates for the cold. You share the space with 11 other men. By the end of your 3rd month, 4 of them will be gone in ways that do not allow for an open casket. You do not talk about this. Talking about it creates a certain kind of gravity that nobody can afford. There is a routine, and the routine is salvation. Wake at 0430. Pre-mission briefing. Equipment check. Walk to the aircraft in the dark. The B-17 is called Lucky Proposition. Someone named it before you arrived. The name is painted on the nose in red and yellow. You touch it every time you climb aboard. Not for luck. More like acknowledgement. The way you'd touch a doorframe leaving a house you weren't sure you'd return to. Your first mission is Wilhelmshaven. You are in the ball turret at 25,000 feet. The temperature outside the aircraft is minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside your heated suit you are cold in a way that is almost philosophical. Your oxygen mask fogs and clears with each breath. Below you, through the plexiglass, Germany looks like a map, organized, brown, abstract. Then the flak begins. Flak is not dramatic. This is the first surprise. It is not a wall of fire or a cinema effect. It is black puffs appearing in sequence, like periods at the end of sentences you cannot read. Occasionally a puff is close enough to rock the aircraft. Occasionally a piece of shrapnel punches through the fuselage with a sound like a nail gun. The aircraft flies on. You fire your twin .50 caliber guns at a FW-190 that crosses your field of view at 400 yards. You don't know if you hit it. Turns and disappears. You'll never know. The after-action report will list you as engaged. This is the military's word for uncertainty rendered administrative. By Mission 7 you have developed a system. Before each flight you check your guns in a specific order. Left feed tray, right feed tray, bolt assembly, elevation gear, traverse gear. You do this in the same sequence every time. You check twice. Then you close your eyes for exactly 10 seconds. Not prayer. Not superstition. A reset. Your own kind of calibration. The crew calls you Ox, for reasons you no longer remember. You have stopped correcting people. Ox is functional. Ox fits in the turret. Ox shows up. This is currency. Your crew chief, a 31-year-old staff sergeant from Akron named Dobbins, once told you, "The men who last aren't the ones who aren't scared. They're the ones who got scared on the ground, dealt with it, and filed it away before they ever climbed in." You didn't understand it then. By Mission 12 you understood it completely. Mission 14 is Bremen. You lose the tail gunner Corporal Vince Hennel of Pittsburgh at approximately 1,143 hours, somewhere over the Weser estuary. A 20 mm round enters the tail section. You don't know this immediately. You know it the way you come to know most things in the aircraft, by absence. His gun goes quiet. The interphone carries nothing. The crew chief checks the interphone. Nothing. The formation continues to the target. This is the thing that civilians don't understand. The formation continues. There is no pause in the arithmetic. The mission has a logic larger than any individual inside it, and that logic does not accommodate grief in real time. Grief has a slot in the schedule, and the schedule places it after wheels down, after debriefing, after you have accounted for the ammunition you expended and the fuel the aircraft consumed. You file Vince Hennel somewhere behind your sternum and you track the sky for fighters. By Mission 17, the crew of Lucky Proposition has been reconstituted twice. The bombardier, the navigator, and both waist gunners are men you met 4 months ago. The co-pilot is 20 years old and from Georgia and still writes to his mother every week without fail. You know this because you have seen the letters on his bunk. You don't ask about them. You respect the ritual. You have now been in England for 11 months. In that time you have received 43 letters from home and sent 21. The ratio is not laziness. It is the difficulty of translating one world into the grammar of another. Your mother asks if you are eating enough. Your father asks if you are behaving. Your girl, whose name is Frances, asks questions you can answer and questions you cannot. The ones you cannot answer pile up in a drawer by your bunk. You will deal with them later. Later is where you keep everything that requires full honesty. Mission 21 is Regensburg. It is August. The sky over southern Germany is a specific shade of blue, high and clean and indifferent, the kind of sky that in another context would be beautiful. You are at 27,000 feet. The formation is 230 aircraft. From inside the turret you can see them, stacked, layered, a moving grid of aluminum and fuel and men, and for a moment the scale of it cancels out the individual. You are a component. Every man in every aircraft is a component. This is true and it is useful, and it is also the thing that erodes something in you so slowly you don't notice it going. The fighters hit the formation east of Regensburg. 47 minutes of continuous engagement. You fire approximately 900 rounds. Your guns jam twice. You clear the jams. Your left hand operates on muscle memory while your eyes track the geometry of intercept angles. There are moments where you are not thinking in language. You are processing in pure spatial logic, angles, closure rates, lead calculations, and in those moments you are not a person. You are the function the turret was designed to perform. Lucky Proposition takes 2 hits. One in the port wing, one in the radio compartment. The radio operator, Sergeant Art Gallo of Chicago, is alive but cannot hear out of his left ear. He will never fully recover this. He will receive a Purple Heart and a medical designation and an honorable discharge in February 1944, and he will go home to Chicago and open a hardware store, and the hearing loss will be a fact he lists on forms for the rest of his life. You don't know any of this yet. You know that the aircraft is flying and the guns are working and the target is 11 minutes out. Mission 24. The aircraft is different. Lucky Proposition is in maintenance. You fly in AB-17 called the ill wind, which you take as an omen and then dismiss, because omens are a form of story and story requires narrative distance you cannot afford. Over Münster, at 1,207 hours, at an altitude of 26,400 feet, in a temperature of -47 degrees Fahrenheit, your formation is hit by a coordinated fighter attack from 12 o'clock high. In the next 4 minutes, 3 aircraft in your group go down. Then the flak finds you. The first burst takes out the number 3 engine. The second burst, 12 seconds later, kills the top turret gunner, a man named Pelletier from Vermont, who was 23 years old and played harmonica on Tuesday nights and never asked for anything from anybody. The blast also wounds the co-pilot. The waist gunners report their guns are jammed. Jammed, both of them, ice in the charging handles. The tail gunner reports he is hit but functional. The pilot, Lieutenant Carver, keeps the aircraft in formation for 6 minutes after losing the engine. 6 minutes. Then the formation leaves you, not cruelly, not indifferently, simply mathematically, because an aircraft that cannot keep pace cannot be protected, and protecting a straggler costs the group more than it saves. You understand this. You have understood it since Mission 1. Understanding it doesn't change what it feels like when the last tail of the last B-17 disappears into the blue. Now the ill wind is alone, descending, trailing smoke from the dead engine, and you are in the belly turret below the aircraft, and you are the only gunner left who can fire. This is the moment. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Quiet, in fact, quieter than you expected. The interphone carries the pilot's voice. Calm. Reading instruments. The aircraft shakes with a specific frequency that you have learned to interpret the way some men read weather. The fighters will come back. They always come back for the stragglers. And you are in a sphere of plexiglass and aluminum beneath a dying aircraft at 19,000 feet over Germany. And your guns work, and you will use them, and you are not thinking about Francis's unanswered letters or your mother's question about whether you are eating enough for the drawer by your bunk in Molesworth or what 25 missions means after this one. You are thinking about angles, because that is what the institution made you into. Not a soldier in the broad sense. Not a hero in the poster sense. A function. Component. A man who fits in the space provided, who operates within tolerance, who was measured and selected and trained and placed here precisely because here is where the geometry required someone exactly like you. You track the sky. You wait. You will complete the tour. Not everyone does. The mathematics of attrition is patient and thorough. But you will land, eventually, in England, in the mud, in the rain, and someone will hand you a cup of tea, British tea, thin and slightly wrong. And you will drink it in silence, and the debriefer will ask you questions, and you will answer them with the precision of a man who has learned that precision is the only form of control available. And then one morning in April 1944, a clerk in administration will hand you your discharge papers. 25 missions. Completed. A form acknowledging your service. A form releasing your serial number back into the pool. You will take the papers and fold them once and put them in your breast pocket. You will walk out of the Nissen hut past the iron stove and the mud and the corrugated steel walls, and you will get on a bus, and the bus will smell like diesel and wet wool, and you will not speak for the first hour. Because there is nothing to say yet. Because the words for it haven't been invented yet by anyone you know. You will go home. You will marry Francis. You will take a job in the machine shop where your father works because your hands know how to work with mechanical things and they need to be doing something. You will have 2 children, and a house, and a lawn that needs mowing every 10 days in summer. You will be, by most measures, fine. But on certain mornings, not always, not predictably, just sometimes, you will wake at 0430 without an alarm, and for a moment before you are fully conscious, you will feel the cold. Not the cold of your bedroom. The other cold. -47. The cold of 26,000 feet, of plexiglass and altitude and a sky that was blue and clean and did not care who you were. And then Francis will turn over, and the room will be warm, and you will lie still until it passes. The turrets kept turning after you. Other men folded themselves into the sphere. Other hands cleared jams. Other eyes tracked the geometry of angles over other cities. The institution did not pause. The institution adjusted its manning figures and requisitioned replacement personnel and updated its records. Your serial number was reassigned within the month. Your name remained in the ledger, rank, missions, dates, decorations, a row in a column in a file in a cabinet in a building that was eventually decommissioned and its records transferred and eventually archived and eventually digitized. You were 19 years old at the end of your tour. You didn't know that either. Not really. Not yet. It takes years to understand what you were when you were inside it. Longer still to understand what it cost. Longest of all to decide whether the accounting matters, when the institution has already moved on and the ledger doesn't require your signature. The bus that brought you home smelled like diesel. You remember that,